Hello students, you are welcome to LAUTECH Open and Distance Learning Lecture Series. I will be taking you through a quick tour on Echo 202, Introduction to Macroeconomics. This video is for study session 10, Theory of Demand, which happens to be the last study session of this module. Do enjoy yourself as you follow me in this video. Introduction. Demand theory is one of the microeconomic tools used in dealing with some of internal issues. The analysis of market demand for a business firm product plays an important role in business decision making, and for a firm to succeed in its operations, it must plan for future production, the inventory of raw materials, advertisement, and sales outlets. In this study session, you will be introduced to the concept and definition of demand. You will also learn about the law of demand and its basic assumptions. Learning outcome for study session 10. At the end of this study session, you should be able to define the concept of demand, explain the law of demand, identify the basic assumption of the law of demand, and explain the exceptional demand curve. What is the definition of demand? In economics, demand refers to the quantity of commodity that a consumer willing and able to buy at a particular price at a time. Before demand can be regarded as effective demand, it must be associated with three major things, which are 1. Desire for a commodity, 2. Sufficient money to buy the commodity, 3. Willingness to buy the commodity. All the 3 points that I've just mentioned support the fact that a want or desire does not develop into demand until it is supported by the ability and the willingness to achieve it. For instance, a person may desire to own a house, but unless he has the required amount of money with him and the willingness to spend that amount on the possession of a house, his desire shall not become a demand. The term demand has no meaning unless it is related to price. Law of demand. Law of demand states that people will buy more at lower price and buy less at higher prices. The law of demand is known as the first law in the market. Law of demand shows the relationship between the price and quantity demanded of a commodity in the same market. In another word, the amount demanded increases with a fall in price and diminishes with a rise in price. So the relationship described by the law of demand is an inverse or negative relationship because the price and the quantity demanded move in opposite direction. Demand schedule. Demand schedule is a list of quantity of commodity purchased by consumer at different prices. Type of demand schedule. Demand schedule could be seen from two different perspectives, which are individual demand schedule and market demand schedule. Individual demand schedule is a list of quantity of commodity purchased by an individual consumer at different levels, while the market demand schedule refers to the quantity of commodity purchased by all the consumers in the market at different levels. Individual demand schedule. This is a typical example of individual demand schedule. The case study on the slide showed the demand schedule of an individual customer for orange. From the case study, when the price falls from 14 naira to 8 naira, the quantity demanded increases from 2 to 4. In the same way, as price falls, quantity demanded increases. Demand curve. A demand curve is a graphical representation that abides by the law of demand. It shows how the quantity demanded of some products during a specific period of time will be changed as the price of that particular product changes, holding all other determinants of the quantity demanded constant. Price is measured on the vertical axis while the quantity demanded is measured on the horizontal axis. The demand curve did show the inverse relationship between price and demand of orange. The demand curve is always sloped downward from left to right because of the inverse relationship that exists between the price and quantity demanded. Market demand schedule. Market demand schedule refers to all the quantity of commodity purchased by all consumers in the market at different prices. It is the total demand for a commodity by all the consumers. It is the aggregate quantity demanded for a commodity by all the consumers in the market. A typical market demand schedule is demonstrated on the slide. To derive market demand curve is a simple process. For instance, let us assume that there are four consumers in a market demanding yam. When the price of 1 unit of yam is 12 naira, consumer B buys 1 unit of yam. When consumer D buys 3 units of yam. When price falls to 10 naira, consumer A buys 1 unit of yam, consumer B buys 2 units of yam, and consumer D buys 4 units of yam. When price falls to 8 naira, consumer A buys 2 units of yam, B buys 3 units of yam, and C buys 1 unit of yam. Consumer D buys 5 units of yam. When the price falls to 6 naira, consumer A buys 3 units of yam, consumer B buys 4 units of yam, consumer C buys 2 units of yam, consumer D buys 6 units of yam, and so on. By adding up the quantity demanded by all the four consumers at various prices, we get the total market demand, which can be used to draw market demand curve. So, last column of the above demand schedule give the total demand for yam at different prices. Assumption of law of demand. Law of demand is based on certain assumptions, which include: 1. There is no change in customer taste. 2. Income should remain constant. 3. Prices of other goods should not change. 4. There should be no substitute for the commodity. 5. The demand for the commodity should be continuous. And the last one, which is number 6, is people should not expect any change in the price of the commodity. Why does the demand curve slope downward? The following are the most important reasons for the downward slope of a demand curve. 1. Law of diminishing marginal utility. 2. Income effect. 3. Substitution effect. 4. Entry of new buyers. And last one, which is number 5, is different uses of the commodity. Let's take them one after the other. Law of diminishing marginal utility. A consumer derives less and less utility from subsequent units of the same quantity he consumes. Since the utility derived keeps on diminishing, consumer goes on reducing the demand. In this case, to increase the demand, seller has to reduce the price. Therefore, there is a direct relationship between the marginal utility and price of a commodity. If marginal utility decreases, price also decreases. And if marginal utility increases, price also increases. Therefore, the marginal utility curve slopes downward from left to right. The second one is income effect. All things being equal, when the price of a commodity decreases, the real income or the purchasing power of the household increases. The consumer is now in a position to purchase more commodity with the same income. The demand for a commodity therefore increased not only from the existing buyer but also from the new buyers who were unable to buy at higher price before. When at the lower price there is a greater demand for a commodity by the household, the demand curve is found to slope downward from left to right. The next one is substitution effect. The demand curve slopes downward from left to right also because of the substitution effect. For instance, the price of yam falls and the prices of other substitute goods, let's say sweet potato and cassava, remain constant. Then the household will prefer to purchase yam because it is now relatively cheaper. The increase in demand with a fall in the price of yam will move the demand curve downward from left to right. The next one is entry of new buyer. When the price of a commodity falls, its demand not only increases from the old buyer but the new buyer also enter the market. The next one is different uses of the commodity. Some commodity have several uses. If the price of the commodity is high, its use will be restricted only for important purposes. For instance, When the price of tomato is high, it will be used only for cooking purpose. When it falls, it will be used for preparing jams, pickle and other things. There will be an increase in demand for tomato when the price falls, and this will bring about movement of the demand from left to right. Exceptional demand curve. Some of the reasons that are responsible for exceptional demand curve are: 1. Giving goods, emergency, ignorance, fear of future change in price, and change in fashion and style. Let's take them one after the other. Giving goods. Some special varieties of goods are termed as giving goods. Cheaper varieties of this category, like maize and rice, fall under this category. Sir Robert Given observed that people used to spend more of their income on inferior goods like maize and rice, and less of their income on, let's say, meat, milk, and some expensive things like that, because maize constitute their staple food. When the price of maize increases, they will still buy more. So the rise in price of maize compel people to buy more maize, and therefore it results in an increase in the demand for maize. This against the law of demand. The second one is emergency. Emergency situations like war, famine, industrial strike, crisis and so on negate the operation of the law of demand. At this time, households behave in an abnormal way. They accentuate scarcity and induce further price rising by increasing their purchases even at high price during such period. The next one is ignorance. Ignorance of the consumer is another factor that is at times induce him to purchase more of its commodity at a higher price. This is usually happen when consumer is haunted by the phobia that a high price commodity is better in quality than a low price one. The next one is fear of future change in price. When the price are rising, households tend to buy large quantities of the commodity out of the fear that prices may still go up. The next one is change in fashion and style. A change in fashion and taste affect the market of a commodity. When a laptop replaces a desktop computer, no amount of reduction in the price of desktop is sufficient to clear the stock. Laptop, on the other hand, will have more customers even though its price may be going up. In this case, the law of demand becomes ineffective. Change in demand and shift in the demand curve. Change in demand can be defined as the movement along the same demand curve that occurs due to a change in the price of a commodity, holding constant other determinant of demand. A shift in the demand curve occurs when the demand curve shifts to the right or left due to the change in all the determinants of demand but price. We have come to the end of this video, which happened to be the last study session of this module. You can contact your study materials for comprehensive details. Thank you for listening.